Ambassador Kixtal of the Harmonious Collective stood in the observation deck of the galactic cruise liner Serenity's Promise. All four of his eye stalks focused on what he could only describe as a catastrophic diplomatic incident unfolding before him. His translator implant was working perfectly, which meant he was actually hearing the words coming from the human's mouth. And he desperately wished it would malfunction. Who's a good murder machine? Who's a good little apex predator? Yes, you are. Yes, you are. According to YouTube analytics, 99.3% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, you'll help support the channel and never miss fresh content. The human, one Jessica Martinez, from the insane death world called Earth, was currently engaged in what his cultural database unhelpfully labeled as playing with a Vraxian Razerclaw cub. The Vraxian Razerclaw, apex predator of the Vrax homeworld. A species so terrifying that most civilized races required sedation just to view their nature documentaries. The cub, approximately 6 cycles old and already the size of a hover car, was currently on its back. Its 6 legs were flailing in the air. Its 3 rows of serrated teeth, each capable of shearing through starship hull plating, were fully visible as it made a sound that Kixtal's translator rendered as playful chittering. This was not how today was supposed to go. Ambassador? His aide, a nervous little Plixian named Reap, whispered urgently at his side. Should we intervene? The human appears to be in mortal danger. Kixtal watched as Jessica scratched under what he assumed was the Razerclaw's chin, if the nightmare creature even had a chin under all those armored plates. The cub's massive tail, which ended in a cluster of poisoned barbs that could liquefy internal organs, was wagging. Wagging, like it was happy. I don't think the human is the one in danger. Kixtal muttered. The entire situation had started 3 standard hours ago when the cruise liner had made an emergency stop at Station Perihelion to pick up refugees from a solar flare evacuation. Among the refugees was a Vraxian diplomatic family, traveling with what they kept insisting was just their family pet. The family pet that required a Class 5 containment field, and had already caused 2 Zelfian tourists to faint from sheer terror just by existing in their general direction. Jessica Martinez had been in the station's recreation lounge, minding her own business, probably thinking whatever baffling thoughts humans thought about. She'd been reading something on her datapad, occasionally laughing at it in that unsettling way humans did, showing all their omnivore teeth. That's when little Crixix, the Razerclaw cub, had escaped from its containment field. Kixtal had been there. He'd seen it happen. The cub had torn through the quantum-locked barrier like it was tissue paper, which should have been impossible, but apparently no one had informed Vraxian biology about what should and shouldn't be possible. The creature had bounded into the lounge, all 6 legs thundering against the deck plating, its triple jaws open wide in what every species in the galaxy recognized as the universal sign for I am going to eat everything that moves. The room had erupted in panic. Kixtal himself had immediately activated his species' natural defense mechanism, which involved turning a vibrant shade of purple and releasing a cloud of warning pheromones that his implant helpfully translated as, "Oh, sweet, merciful void stars above, we're all going to die." The Zelfians had fainted immediately. The Klaxons had begun their death prayers. A pair of methane-breathing Solix had tried to climb into an air vent, gotten stuck, and were now just waggling their tentacles frantically while screaming in ultrasonic frequencies. And Jessica Martinez, this small human female who barely reached Kixtal's thorax in height, had looked up from her datapad, sized up the approaching apex predator, and said, "Oh, a puppy? A puppy." She'd called it a puppy. Kixtal had been certain he was about to witness his first human death. He'd already begun composing the incident report in his head. Human foolishly attempted to classify xenofauna using incorrect taxonomy, was subsequently devoured. Remains were scattered across 3 decks. Memorial service to be held in observation lounge. Attendance mandatory. Refreshments will be served. But then something had happened that would haunt Kixtal's dreams for cycles to come. The Razerclaw cub had bounded up to Jessica, reared up on its hind legs to its full terrifying height, and roared. Not just any roar. This was a roar that contained threat frequencies that triggered panic responses in 47% of known sapient species. A roar that said, "I am the end of your genetic line." A roar that had once caused an entire planetary evacuation on Zelphia 6 when it was accidentally broadcast over their emergency network. Jessica Martinez had looked at this instrument of biological warfare, this 6-legged nightmare, this thing that made carnivorous plant life from Vendris Prime look cuddly by comparison. And she had roared back. Not screamed, not shrieked in terror, roared. The human had thrown back her head, opened her mouth to display her flat omnivore teeth that shouldn't have been threatening at all, but somehow were, and released a sound that made the Razerclaw cub freeze in place. Kixtal's translator had struggled with it. The readout on his implant had flickered between primate territorial display, challenge vocalization, playful mimicry, and error. Sound should not exist. The Razerclaw cub had stared at Jessica for approximately 2.3 seconds, which Kixtal knew because his shock had activated his species' involuntary time dilation response. Then the cub had made a sound that his translator weakly rendered as excited chirping, rolled over onto its back, and presented its armored belly to the human. The universal sign of submission and trust in Vraxian body language. To a human. A species they'd only discovered 6 standard cycles ago. A species that had somehow managed to look at a galaxy full of wonders and terrors and had immediately tried to pet 90% of it. "I don't understand," Reap whimpered beside Kixtal. The Razerclaw species evolved on a world with 3 times Earth's gravity, atmospheric pressure that would crush most species, and predator saturation that makes Deathworld classifications seem inadequate. They're pure killing machines. How is she doing that thing with its... Is that its ear? I didn't know they had ears. Kixtal didn't know either. He was reasonably certain the ears hadn't been visible in any of the intelligence briefs he'd studied. But Jessica had apparently found them and was now scratching behind them while making cooing sounds that should not have been coming from anything that classified as an apex predator species. "Who's got the big scary teeth?" "You do." "Such big teeth, so scary, very frightening. 11 out of 10 would be terrified again." The Razerclaw cub's tail wagged harder. This was wrong. This was all wrong. Kixtal had 3 advanced degrees in xenobiology. He'd spent 40 cycles studying interspecies interactions. He'd published 17 papers on predator-prey dynamics in multicultural environments. And none of it, absolutely none of it, had prepared him for watching a human reduce an apex predator to something that acted like, and he could barely think the words, a domesticated companion animal. "Ambassador," Reap said urgently, "the Vraxian parents are approaching." Kixtal turned his eye stalks to see Warmaster Crixvol and his mate, Huntress Vexira, approaching with what he recognized as extreme caution. Both adult Vraxians were massive, easily 4 times the size of their offspring, their armored carapaces scarred from countless hunts. Crixvol's reputation preceded him. He'd single-handedly pacified a pirate stronghold in the Kelvar Nebula by the simple expedient of eating the pirate leadership. All of them. At once. These were not beings one approached casually. Jessica looked up from where she was scratching the cub's belly and gave the sort of smile that had probably terrified prey animals on Earth for millions of years. "Oh, are these your parents? He's wonderful. What's his name?" Krixval stared at the human. All 6 of his eyes blinked in sequence, which Kixtal's cultural database indicated was a sign of extreme confusion in Vraxians. "You are playing with our spawn," Krixval said slowly, his translator rendering his clicking mandibles into galactic standard. "Well, yeah, he's adorable." Jessica scratched behind the cub's ear again, producing another bout of tail wagging. "I hope it's okay that I roared at him." He seemed to like it. "I used to do the same thing with my dog back home. Dogs love it when you play growl at them." "Dog," Vexira repeated, her antenna quivering. "This is similar to a dog? I mean, sort of. He's got way more legs, and the whole poison tail thing is new, and I'm pretty sure those aren't exactly scales, but also not exactly chitin. And the teeth situation is definitely in a league of its own. But the basic vibes are the same. You're a good boy who likes belly rubs and playing, aren't you?" This last part was directed at the cub, whose tail was now wagging so hard it was creating a localized breeze. Kixtal watched Krixval and Vexira exchange a look that his xenopsychology training suggested was the Vraxian equivalent of, "Are we seeing what I think we're seeing?" "Our spawn's name is Crixix," Vexira said carefully. "He has been difficult to manage during the journey. He has already destroyed 2 containment fields, frightened numerous passengers, and ate someone's emotional support crystal." "The crystal was delicious," the cub chimed in, speaking for the first time in a voice that sounded like rocks being ground in a plasma furnace. His translator implant was apparently top of the line. "You ate someone's emotional support crystal?" Jessica said, but she was laughing, actually laughing. "Oh, you're a menace. Yes, you are, a tiny, adorable menace." "I am a fearsome predator," Crixix protested, though he made no move to get up from his position on his back. "The most fearsome," Jessica agreed solemnly. "Absolutely terrifying. I'm shaking. Can't you tell how scared I am?" She was very clearly not shaking. "She mocks me," Crixix said, though Kixtal noted his tail hadn't stopped wagging. No, I would never." Jessica's tone was absolutely mocking. "You're very scary. I'm sure all those dust bunnies on your homeworld live in constant fear of you." "We do not have dust bunnies on Vrax. We have shadow stalkers. They are very dangerous. And I'm sure you hunt them with great skill and ferocity." "I do. I have killed many." A pause. "2. I have killed 2. They were very small. Mother said they were babies." Jessica laughed again, that strange human sound that showed too many teeth, but somehow didn't seem threatening when directed at the apex predator on her lap. "Well, you have to start somewhere. I'm sure by the time you're grown, you'll be the fiercest Shadowstalker hunter in the galaxy." "You mock me again." "Maybe a little bit." Crixix's tail wagged even harder. Kixtal realized his mandibles were hanging open. He snapped them shut. "How?" he managed to croak. "Is this happening?" Crixval turned to regard him, which was absolutely terrifying when done by a creature that could casually bite through Duralloy. "You ask us?" "We are equally confused, Ambassador. In our culture, to willingly expose one's vulnerable areas to a stranger is a sign of ultimate trust. Crixix has known this human for less than 10 time units, and he treats her as if she were a littermate." "She roared at me," Crixix explained helpfully. "It was a good roar, Very loud. Much impressive. Humans do that, Kickstall muttered. Make noise. Lots of noise. They seem to think appropriate volume doesn't exist as a concept. The roar was amusing. Crixix continued. So I showed her my belly. This is friendship, yes? That's not how friendship works, Reap squeaked. That is exactly how friendship works, Jessica said firmly. Quality belly rub time is the foundation of all good relationships. My dog always said so. Your dog spoke to you? Vexira asked. Well, no, not in words. But I understood him anyway. We had a connection. Jessica scratched under Crixix's chin, which produced a rumbling sound that Kickstall's translator labeled as contented purring, and which he refused to accept as accurate. Just like Crixix and I have a connection now. Don't we, buddy? We are pack-bonded, Crixix agreed. I will hunt for you. Bring you the finest meats. That's very sweet. But I can order food from the replicator. The replicator makes inferior meat. I will kill prey with my own jaws and present it to you while it is still warm. Maybe let's start with just hanging out and playing fetch or something. Fetch? I throw something, you bring it back. It's fun. Crixix's eyes widened. You would trust me to return your possessions? This is a great honor. Or we could just play chase. Do you like chase? I love chase. I am very good at chase. None of my siblings can catch me. Then we'll play chase, after you get some rest. You look tired. I am not tired. I am a fierce predator. I do not need rest. Crixix yawned, displaying all 3 rows of his serrated teeth. Right, not tired at all. Jessica's tone was the verbal equivalent of a wink. But maybe you could close your eyes for just a minute while I keep scratching behind your ears? Perhaps for a minute, Crixix conceded. Only a minute, though. I must remain vigilant. 30 seconds later, the Razerclaw cub was snoring. It sounded like a malfunctioning engine grinding through its gears. But Jessica didn't seem bothered. She just kept up the gentle scratching and hummed something under her breath. The crowd that had gathered to watch what they'd assumed would be a gruesome death by predator slowly began to disperse, looking confused and vaguely disappointed. Kickstall understood the feeling. Ambassador? Crixvol said, his voice surprisingly gentle for something that came from a creature of nightmares. We must speak of this situation. Kickstall gestured to a nearby seating area, and they moved away from Jessica and the sleeping cub, though Vexira kept her eyes on her offspring the entire time. We did not anticipate this, Crixvol began. Our research into human behavior suggested they were dangerous, prone to impulsive decisions, and possessed an alarming tendency to adopt anything they perceived as cute. That is accurate, Kickstall confirmed. We did not, however, expect them to be capable of dominating a Vraxian Razerclaw cub within moments of meeting. Dominating is perhaps too strong a word. Is it? My spawn, who has terrorized our household for 6 cycles, who has sent 3 of our household guards to the medical bay, who once attempted to hunt our hovercar, is currently unconscious in that human's lap, making trust purrs. Trust purrs are real? Kickstall asked weakly. Unfortunately. I thought those were a myth, like Earth's platypus or the Zelvian peaceful elections. The platypus is real too, Reap offered helpfully. I researched human fauna. Everything about their world is insane. They have creatures that are mammals but lay eggs. Creatures that can survive in volcanic vents. Creatures that can regrow limbs, and creatures that kill for fun. The humans domesticated the ones that kill for fun. They call them cats. Of course they do, Kickstall muttered. Crixval gestured with one of his massive claws. Ambassador, we are filing a formal diplomatic request. Here it comes, Kixtal thought. The incident report, the formal complaint, the demand for human removal from the cruise liner and possibly from this entire sector of space. We wish to hire the human to be Crix's caretaker for the duration of our journey. Kixtal's eye stalks froze. You want to what now? Our spawn has been impossible to manage. We have tried 5 different professional handlers, all of whom resigned after 2 standard days. Crix destroyed their equipment, ate their meal rations, and in one memorable incident, somehow managed to lodge himself in the waste disposal system. We have been at our wits' end. Vexira leaned forward. Then this human appears, roars at our child once, and he becomes compliant. Do you understand how unprecedented this is? I understand that it makes no sense whatsoever. Sense or not, it is effective. We will pay her well. The human economy runs on something called money, yes? We have researched this. It is a strange system, but we are prepared to adapt. Kixtal looked over at Jessica, who was still sitting with the sleeping Razerclaw cub, scrolling through her datapad with her free hand. She looked completely at ease, like having several hundred kilograms of apex predator using her as a pillow was just another Tuesday, which, knowing humans, it probably was. I will inquire, Kixtal said finally, but I make no promises. Humans are unpredictable. When he approached Jessica a few minutes later, she looked up with a smile that was probably meant to be friendly, but still showed entirely too many teeth for his comfort. Hey, Ambassador. What's up? The Vraxian family has made a request. They wish to employ you as their spawn's caretaker during the voyage. Jessica blinked. They want me to babysit? The murder puppy? Please do not call the apex predator a murder puppy. Why not? That's what he is. A puppy who could commit murder if he wanted to, but mostly just wants belly rubs and snacks. That is not a recognized xenobiological classification. It is now. Jessica looked down at the sleeping Crix, her expression softening. I mean, yeah, I'll do it. He's sweet. Plus, this cruise is boring. I could use something to do besides read romance novels and judge the terrible food choices in the dining hall. You find Michelin-grade prepared cuisine terrible? Michelin stars don't exist anymore, dude. We're in space, with aliens. The rating system is meaningless, and yes, the food is terrible. Everything is either too bland or tastes like someone's idea of what food should taste like based on a description they heard third hand. Kixtal decided not to engage with human culinary opinions. That way lay madness. The Vraxians are prepared to pay you generously. Cool. Make sure it includes hazard pay. Not because of Crix, but because if I have to eat another station meal, I might cry. Humans do not actually cry over food. You have clearly never met an Italian grandmother. I do not know what that means. Neither do I, really. My friend Gianna says it a lot, though. Jessica shifted slightly, careful not to wake the cub. So what does babysitting a baby Razerclaw involve, besides the obvious belly rubs and roaring practice? I have absolutely no idea. The Vraxians will brief you. Sweet. Hey, do you think he'd like playing with a ball? I saw a recreational supply shop on the station. They might have something durable enough. Most recreational equipment is not rated for Vraxian jaw strength. So we get him something that is maybe a compressed Durasteel sphere with some grip texture so he can carry it without it slipping. You have given this concerning amount of thought in the last 30 seconds. I'm good at pet care. It's a gift. Jessica grinned. This is going to be fun. Kickstall was quite certain that fun was not the word he would use. Terrifying, perhaps. Diplomatically complicated, definitely. Something I will need therapy to process? Absolutely. But as he watched Jessica carefully extract herself from under the sleeping Crixix, using surprising gentleness for a species that had conquered their planet through persistence hunting and the invention of pointed sticks, he had to admit something. The human had managed, in less than a standard hour, to do what the entire Vraxian diplomatic corps had failed to do for 6 cycles, made their apex predator offspring manageable. Humans. They show up, they make friends with things that should eat them, they demand better food, and somehow everyone just goes along with it. The galaxy was never going to be the same. 3 hours later, Kickstall was in his quarters, trying to write his daily report to the Harmonious Collective. His supervisor was not going to believe this. He barely believed it himself. Human Jessica Martinez, he typed slowly, has successfully integrated with Vraxian diplomatic family as child care specialist for their spawn. Designation, Crixix. Integration occurred after human engaged in vocal dominance display with juvenile Razerclaw, resulting in immediate pack bonding behavior. Human has since acquired a compressed Durasteel ball, 3 kilograms of processed meat products, and something she calls a chew toy, which is actually a decommissioned shuttle support strut. Vraxian spawn appears content. Vraxian parents appear relieved. This analyst appears traumatized. Request immediate guidance on human apex predator interaction protocols. Also request hazard pay increase. Also request therapy. Also request transfer to literally anywhere else. He paused, then deleted the last 3 sentences. Had to maintain professional standards. A chime at his door interrupted his typing. "Enter," he called. Reap scurried in, his small form vibrating with agitation. "Ambassador, you need to see this. If it involves the human and the Razerclaw, I already know they are playing fetch in the cargo bay. I received 6 noise complaints." "It's not that." "Well, it is related. But Ambassador, she is teaching it tricks." "Tricks. Sit. Stay. Roll over. Come. The basic commands humans teach their dogs." "And the Razerclaw is learning them?" "He learned them in 15 minutes. The human is now teaching him something called down and heel. The Vraxian parents are taking notes." Kickstall put his head down on his desk. "Of course they are." "Ambassador, there is more. Other passengers have noticed. Several species representatives have approached the human to ask if she would be willing to work with their problematic pets. A Zelfian brought her their emotional support crystal, which apparently has behavioral issues. A crystal with behavioral issues. How can a crystal have behavioral issues? I did not ask because I do not want to know." Reap paused. "Ambassador, I think we need to add a new file category to the human behavioral database." "What category?" "Inexplicable animal affinity." "That already exists. It's under dangerous behaviors." "Should we move it to beneficial behaviors?" Kickstall considered this. On one hand, Jessica had successfully prevented what could have been a serious diplomatic incident and a possible mauling. On the other hand, she had done so by roaring at an apex predator and convincing it they were friends, which suggested a fundamental lack of survival instinct. "Create a new category," he decided. "Call it concerning but effective." "That describes most human behaviors, Ambassador." "I know." Kickstall turned back to his report. "I know." Down in the cargo bay, blissfully unaware of the diplomatic complexity she'd created, Jessica threw the Durasteel ball across the large space. Crixix, all 6 legs pumping, his tail streaming behind him in excitement, chased after it with single-minded determination. He grabbed it in his jaws, all 3 rows of teeth clamping down on the metal with enough force to dent it slightly, and came bounding back. He dropped it at Jessica's feet and sat, just like she'd taught him, his tail wagging hard enough to leave scratches in the deck plating. "Good boy," Jessica said, meaning it. "Who's the best hunter?" "You are." "Yes, you are." Crixix chirped happily. Behind them, Crixfall watched his spawn, this child, who had been a terror for 6 cycles, sitting obediently and waiting for the human to throw the ball again. "Vexira," he said quietly to his mate, "I believe we need to revise our assessment of human capabilities." "Agreed. I am beginning to understand why they are classified as a Level 7 concern by the Galactic Council." "Only Level 7? After watching this, I would suggest Level 9 at minimum." They watched as Jessica threw the ball again, and Crixix bounded after it with obvious joy. "She makes it look so easy," Vexira said. "Because for her, it is. She does not see a dangerous predator. She sees a child who wants to play." "Is she wrong?" Crixfall watched his spawn return with the ball, watched the human praise him, watched the tail wag with pure happiness. "No," he said finally. "She is not wrong. That is what makes humans so dangerous. They see the truth that we have forgotten." "What truth?" "That predators can be friends too." In the observation deck, Kixtal watched the scene unfold on the cargo bay security feed, because apparently his day had not contained enough cosmic horror already. He watched Jessica Martinez, this small human who should by all rights be terrified, playing with a Razerclaw cub like it was the most natural thing in the galaxy. And perhaps, for humans, it was. Perhaps that was their secret. Not their endurance, though they had that in abundance. Not their tool use, though they were masters of it. Not their pack bonding, though it was legendary. Their secret was simpler, and somehow more profound. They refused to accept that anything was too dangerous to be friends with. They had looked at the wolves on their world and said, "I bet we can be friends." They had looked at the great cats and said, "I bet we can coexist." They had looked at creatures that could kill them in a dozen different ways and said, "But have you considered that you are very cute, though?" And somehow, impossibly, it worked. The universe ran on laws, physics, chemistry, biology, cause and effect. But humans seem to operate on a different law entirely. The law of, but what if we tried being nice to it first? And the terrifying thing, the truly cosmically unsettling thing, was that it seemed to work far more often than it had any right to. Kixtal watched Jessica give Crixix a treat, watched the cub's tail wag with pure joy, and made a note in his report. Recommendation: establish human interaction protocols for all diplomatic missions involving potentially dangerous xenofauna. Secondary recommendation: keep humans away from all xenofauna until such protocols are established. Tertiary recommendation: disregard secondary recommendation as impossible. Humans will find the dangerous creatures regardless. They always do. Quaternary recommendation: just accept it. This is our life now. He sent the report, closed his datapad, and went to pour himself a drink. It was going to be a long voyage. In the cargo bay, Jessica threw the ball one more time, and Crixix chased it with all the enthusiasm of a puppy who had found his person. The human roared in play. The predator cub roared back. And somewhere, the universe sighed and gave up trying to make sense of humans. It was probably for the best.